Go. Okay, you're on. Yeah, we're on.
Action.
So, welcome to the Tibet Center. Where are we? 723, the Bowery. Is that right?
173 Bowery.
No, 273, the Bowery.
This address?
Yeah,
Yes. Corner of House.
corner of Houston Street and Bowery. So, we will begin by reciting the prayer for the spreading of the teachings throughout the length and breadth of the West. By the force of the blessings of the non-fallacious three precious gems, and of the truth of our pure selfless wishes, may the precious Buddhist teachings flourish and spread to the expanse of all areas throughout the length and breadth of the West. For all the people living there, together with their near ones, who have engaged in the teachings and have faith and respect for them, may all conditions adverse to their practice of the pure Dharma be dispelled, and an excellent collection of favorable conditions increase like the waxing moon. And especially for those who work on methods to accomplish the flourishing and spreading of the victorious one's teachings, which are the source of benefit and happiness, may they never be oppressed by masses of interference and adverse conditions, and may this spontaneously happen just as we had hoped and wished. The Heart Sutra. Thus have I heard once. The Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a big gathering of great monks and great bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the Samadhi, which examines Dharma's called profound illumination. At the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the profound practice of transcendent knowledge, saw the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Avalokiteshvara, "How should those noble ones learn who wish to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge?" Answer: Venerable Shariputra, whoever wishes to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge should look at it like this: seeing the five skandhas and their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness itself is form. Emptiness is not separate from form, form is not separate from emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discriminating awareness, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Thus, all the dharmas are empty and have no characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, since there is emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discriminating awareness, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no objects of mind, no quality of sight, no quality of hearing, no quality of smelling, no quality of tasting, no quality of sensing, no quality of thought, no quality of mind consciousness. There are no nidanas from ignorance to old age and death, nor their wearing out. There is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no end of suffering, and no path, no wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. Therefore, since there is no attainment, the bodhisattvas abide by means of transcendent knowledge, and since there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear, they transcend falsity and pass beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the past, present, and future, by means of transcendent knowledge, fully and clearly awaken to unsurpassed, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of transcendent knowledge, the mantra of deep insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra of truth. In transcendent knowledge, the mantra is proclaimed. Tadyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Para Samgate Bodhisvaha. O Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva Mahasattva should learn profound transcendent knowledge. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara, saying, Good, good, O son of noble family, profound transcendent knowledge should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering in the world with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, their hearts full of joy, praised the words of the Blessed One. Now we generate bodhicitta. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. Space endures, as long as sentient beings remain. Until then, may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Okay, so let us, we have been reciting the Medicine Buddha mantra, one rosary. And we dedicate this to the healing of His Holiness the Dalai Lama's knee. And we can think of its benefiting all sentient beings and the freeing them of the illnesses that they're experiencing. So the mantra is Tadyata Om Benganse Benganse Maha Benganse Raja Samudgate Svaha. So Tadyata, and if that's difficult, please recite Om Mani Padme Hum. But Tadyata Om Benganse Benganse Maha Benganse Raja Samudgate Svaha. Tadyata Om Benganse Tadyato Om Bingate Bingate Maha Bingate Raja Samudgate Swaha. So, we have been discussing Beyond Religion, Ethics for a Whole World by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And this is a discussion group, so please pitch in, please participate, please. Can you hear me? Yes? So we have reached, so since we're doing this both here and in New Jersey on Wednesday nights, I'm never quite sure where we have reached. So let's go to Chapter 7, page 83. And it begins with His Holiness talking about the fact that he listens to the radio every day. He listens to the BBC World Service. We discussed this here? Yeah? New Jersey.
We can't
I
get
didn't
that
see you
station
there.
here.
I listen
Oh.
every Wednesday.
That's what you do.
So, and as I recounted, if you listen to when I went to India to live in the monastery back in the mid-80s, there was no internet, there was nothing like that. I had a shortwave radio, and I could listen to the BBC, and I had an old wind-up watch that I had bought in Dharamsala in the street, and I was very fond of it. But it lost a minute or two a day, and when the BBC World Service would do its little jingle, and then it would end with a bump, 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 it was always a minute off, and it was terribly frustrating. All the sort of calm that I was meant to be developing would go. And I discovered a few years later that His Holiness the Dalai Lama was in New York, and he sent his watch to be set. It was a Rolex, and it went to the Rolex people, and for His Holiness it was sent to the finest of the technicians, and he checked it out, and it was something like 10 or 15 seconds off, either fast or slow, but it was within the tolerances that Rolex accepted. And so they returned the watch saying, no, this watch is fine. And the message then went back when it was returned to His Holiness, no, it's not fine, it's 10 or 15 seconds slow or fast. And so it was sent back to the Rolex people, and they said, oh, well, yes, that is true, but we consider that fiddling with a watch that is within that tolerance does more harm to the watch than it does good. So it was returned to His Holiness with that message. And the return and the message back was, I want it to the second. And when I heard this, I realized that His Holiness, listening to the BBC World Service, wanted the second hand to go over the 12 o'clock mark at the right time. I was the same. And maybe one of the few areas where I resembled His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And I would give my watch every year to be cleaned in New Delhi. They would oil it and get it, and it was never within 10 or 15 seconds. It was always a little either slower or faster than that, but still it was better than losing 2 or 3 minutes every day. And once while I had to travel, and I had given my watch to be done, and I didn't get it back before I left. And I had to go to Cairo. I got to the Cairo airport and I didn't have a watch, and I felt totally lost. And so I bought a swatch. And the swatch is perfect. It cost, I think, $30 in those days. And I continue. This is maybe the 7th incarnation since then. They have evolved. I was very happy to see that Pope Francis wears a swatch. His Holiness the Dalai Lama wears many watches, but not a swatch. So, His Holiness listened to the radio every day and listened to the news, and as he says here, it's quite interesting when you listen to the BBC News, because you get a little summary, and then they go into a little more detail about what's happening, and it's all bad news. I mean, it's all sort of tragic. There are wars in Uganda. There wherever it is, it's bad news, and if you're working at developing a recognition of the suffering of cyclic existence, of course it's very valuable. If you're working towards recognizing the futility of our involvement in cyclic existence, it's really helpful. If you're working towards developing compassion, if you're working towards opening your hearts and recognizing the suffering that exists around us. I remember once I was in retreat, and it was during monsoon in the monastery, and I was in my room for about 2 weeks for the retreat, and it was raining every day, and it was wonderful because it was cool, and it was there was no desire to go out. You didn't want to. In those days, we didn't have paved roads or anything. We had mud, and so I was just in my cocoon. And then at the end of it, I listened to the news. I finished the retreat, and I turned on the BBC and discovered that as a result of the monsoons, hundreds of people had been killed in landslides and in flooding in little villages right around where I was living. And it was a real shock that here I had been enjoying this weather while others were really suffering from the same phenomenon. Anyway, listening to the news with an attitude towards developing some kind of a more profound feeling towards others and towards the difficulties that they're experiencing can be very helpful. I mean, we tend to get sucked in, especially following politics in this country, but I found it extremely helpful. His Holiness, another, I think I mentioned this in New Jersey, His Holiness had these very nice Sony shortwave radios. It was about this big. I don't know if you remember them from the old days. And it had an aerial, and he had a number of them. And someone said, "Oh, Your Holiness, you have all these radios. You're meant to be an ascetic who's given up all attachment to things." And His Holiness laughed and said, "No, not at all. I have a radio next to my bed. I have a radio where I say my prayers. I have a radio in my office. I have a radio where I have my meals. I have a radio where I sit and read. And they're all set to the BBC so that at any time, wherever I happen to be, I can hear what's happening in the world. It had nothing to do with an attachment to radios. It had to do with a real wish to. And this is interesting because it shows us that things are not necessarily objects of attachment. They're tools, and the challenge of owning is really our attitude to the things, and if we can maintain our perspective, and if we can sort of prevent ourselves from getting attached to the thing, tools are necessary. Tools are good, but attachment to them, preoccupation with them, is not. Why is it not good? It's not good because we suffer, because we become, our attachment, our desires grow, our frustrations develop. It is we. Attachment is an affliction because we are afflicted by, we suffer from this grasping or this attachment. I have a lot of personal experience with this, having a certain relationship to cameras, and I recognize that a camera is a tool, and as a photographer I need a tool, but the line between seeing it as a tool and developing attachment is very, very thin, and one to be watched over. Anyway, so as His Holiness says, at my residence in Dharamsala, the hill station in North India, which has been my home since the early 1960s, it is my daily habit to rise early, normally around 3:30 a.m. After some hours apparently, when His Holiness talks about this, he says it is important to sleep 9 hours, and so I go to bed at what's 3:30 minus 9? 6? Is that 6:30? So 6:30 is. No, we eat around 5:30. I generally listen to the world news on the radio. Most often I turn into the BBC World Service. It is a routine I have followed for many years as a way of staying in touch with events around the world. As I listen to the constant stream of reports about money and finance, about crises and conflicts and war, it often strikes me that the complex problems we face in the world, problems of corruption, environment, politics, and so on, almost always indicate a failure of moral ethics and inner values. At every level, we see a lack of self-discipline. Many problems are also due to failures of discernment, of short-sightedness, or narrow-mindedness. Of course, the cause and conditions of particular problems can be immensely complex. The need of the seeds of ethnic violence, rebellion, and war, for example, almost invariably date back decades or even centuries. But still, if we are really interested in tackling our problems at the root, whether we are talking about human conflict, poverty, or environmental destruction, we have to recognize that they are ultimately related to issues of ethics. Our shared problems do not fall from the sky, nor are they created by some higher force. For the most part, they are products of human action and human error. If human action can create these problems in the first place, then surely we humans must have the capacity as well as the responsibility to find their solutions. The only way we can put them right is by changing our outlook and our way, and by changing action, taking action. So let's stop there for the time being and discuss this. The whole idea that the problems that we face in the world are, for the most part, created by humans. And if humans created them, we should be able to, and we have the responsibility to, make effort towards changing the situation. Michael, what do you think?
Definitely. Yes, for sure.
And how do we do it?
Make an effort.
At?
That's enough.
Becoming more positive.
So it's tricky because we can make effort. Here, I think that His Holiness is talking about assuming responsibilities within our society, getting involved in doing good, getting involved in refraining from the harmful behavior, the harmful policies, the harmful ways that bring on the problem. So how do I as an individual affect the situation?
The big problems a lot of times are between ethnic group, religious groups. One thing we could do on our own is try to reach out to other religions and promote organizations that invest in religious harmony, especially the Middle East. That's been going on a lot, thousands of years or whatever. Based on religious beliefs, if they were examined properly, they'd see how much in common they have. You know, that's one thing, as ordinary people, without moving the world, to try to open up to other religious groups. And we could do that. That's secular ethics. Attempt, not to sit in our own little silo. So that's one thing we can do.
Also, large problems like climate change, where, helping educate other people and helping change your own habits, show the priorities for it. It's something that current generation is very pessimistic about.
The current generation is pessimistic about.
Solving that as a collective, at least that's my experience talking to kids.
We're all current generation
Yeah,
here.
Well,
People in their teens and twenties.
And they are pessimistic, meaning?
Meaning that they just don't see that the earth and the people who have power are able to make change, to make climate change not as dire as it seems. And so it's important.
Wait.
Right.
Say it again?
They're pessimistic that governments and individuals and corporations will make the changes necessary to avoid, temperatures rising 2 or 3 degrees globally.
Okay.
Frustrated with the political
Right.
situation.
And so it's hard to figure out how to get them to be optimistic other than educating, showing by example, showing how to collectively try to.
So who's showing who? The younger generation is showing the older generation how to.
Just in me as a human being in terms of things I contribute to.
So
When
we
I see
should
that.
show.
I think I know His Holiness talks about education.
Are you optimistic?
I'm pragmatic. I think, I mean, and I read the science a fair amount. So I think that there are things that can be done, and I think people can be swayed to think nothing can be done, or people ignore it, right? And I'm more interested in showing a path of, here are things that we can do to gradually make it better, so that so people aren't as, don't give up.
Nothing can be done as a bad mental habit.
Right.
It carries on to the next life.
Well, and
Bad attitude.
it's also an action that human beings over generations have contributed to this problem. So when I think of, when His Holiness says we can undo the things that we've done collectively, it can be a challenge sometimes, getting people to, other than me, to see them.
Yes, I'm rather worried in terms of our undoing the problems we've created. I'm rather worried about whether we might have gotten beyond the point of being able to.
Some scientists think that.
I would love to respond to that quite briefly. I think many people around me have thought about what it means to act in the world in a meaningful and tangible way. I think everyone, I don't assume that anyone has bad intentions of wanting to be selfish and only benefit themselves and do things that are not for necessarily the benefit of other people. I think people have an inclination to quote unquote do good in the world, right? But I will say that there are certain spheres, I guess, where change and action is more possible than other spheres. For instance, you mentioned the monsoons in your monastery and how, you felt this kind of just shock at the fact that other people could be experiencing something so different from what you can. I mean, the rains are not something that you can change necessarily, that just happens. And I think that a lot of the problems, maybe this is not unique to our time, but for instance, climate change, for instance, financial networks that are causing a lot of the problems that happen in the world today are not necessarily things that I can influence. They're not people I can talk to. They're not societies that I live in. They're not necessarily going to respond to things that I choose to do. So I feel like my sphere of action, my ability to influence things is severely hampered in that respect. I think certainly there are things that we can do, and there are things that we can tell ourselves that we can do, but I don't know if the word change necessarily means the same thing in one context to another, depending on who it is we're talking to and what it is we're necessarily doing with ourselves. But I do think that everybody wants to do something. It just depends on how.
I think in order to help others or whatever, is the most important thing is to change ourselves first, to overcome our inner problems first. For instance, like our angers, greediness, ignorance. If we overcome our problem, we will change ourselves, and then other people around me will get affected. Like that. That is I think that's what we can do for now.
So that, in respect to what you're saying, the only element within those existential challenges that we're facing, the only part that we truly have control over, as you suggested, these are out of our control, is ourselves, and working on ourselves. When you turn on the water where I live, you have to wait a long time for hot water. And if I want to wash my face, I want to wash my face with hot water. And I am there saying, should I let the water run all this time to have the hot water to wash my face? Or should I, and I think for the planet, I should just wash with the cold water right away and use as little bit as possible. But I think that these are the things that we should think about. In other words, if we really think that way, how many times should we flush the toilet? I'm sorry to bring this up here, but it's Sorry? Water. These are things that I can do. I can't do terribly much, I'm afraid, but
You can
working,
think globally.
you can think, and as what you were saying, the degree to which we really work at changing ourselves, at diminishing our desire for things and our frustrations or whatever, that has some effect on the universe. I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yes. So I think I agree. Ourselves, but I think there has to be a distinction because I could interpret that as ourselves only, as opposed to it begins with ourselves and it extends beyond ourselves. But it always begins with myself.
Yeah.
Right? It always. It's a must.
Mm-hmm.
It cannot but. And then myself becomes greater, and it includes others. As opposed to like just myself, I do my job, I do the job, and I don't care about you. Just do it, but it's okay if you don't do it. I just do my stuff. I do the good thing, right? And if I could go my life ignoring what the rest of the world does, so that could end up in a pessimistic, worldview. And I think I've been there. I just do my ethical thing myself, right? With the water, cleaning, my practice, it could also become self-centered, my spiritual practice. And I've been there. I think it's an initial stage in spiritual path when you just take care of yourself. And then, later on, I realized, I have to include others in myself.
But I think doing ourselves, our job means we're watching our body, speech, and mind. Action, speech is always towards the others, watching our speech and watching our mind.
Yes.
So if you think body, speech, and body, speech, and mind, then it's not all selfish.
But I think that we work on ourselves, body, speech, and mind, as you say, also with the humility that we don't really have the ability at this point to affect much change beyond, and if we really do this with depth, and if we do it with the right motivation, that's the greatest contribution that we might be able to make to the world. But of course, we should not say, oh no, I'm not interested in helping that situation. I'm working on myself. No. And you're right to point out that we have to keep ourselves from that. And
Oscar.
sorry?
Oscar is winning. I thought you were answering.
We monks, it's very, we can be accused of being totally preoccupied with our own work and really trying to avoid the outside world, and that's wrong. I mean, we should be working on ourselves in order to some way benefit the outside world. That has to be the motivation behind the work we're doing on ourselves. Oscar.
It's a moral dilemma, right? Because if the world is real, therefore I had to create change.
If the world
It
is real,
it's a must for someone who believes the world is real. Therefore, it's ethical to create change out there, to make it good. Now, if the world is not real, that's a big difference. That's a big assumption. The world is not as real. And therefore, I don't need to change the world. I just need myself.
so how do you define?
That's a moral dilemma.
How do you define real?
real, the way the Buddhist defines it. The way the Buddhism defines it.
So there are many philosophical
Yeah, many.
descriptions of reality in Buddhism.
Yes, in Buddhism, in Hinduism, in subjective idealism.
And Oscarism. I'm interested in Oscarism.
Yes. But I think it follows, if the world is unreal, I don't need to do anything about it. I don't need to do much.
If it's not real, I
If
don't.
it is not real, I don't need to do much. I just need to change my thoughts because everything is subject.
Well, if the practice of changing my thoughts within the context of an unreal world is accompanied by a feeling of responsibility and compassion towards those other people within the unreal world, then we're working towards something good.
But also that seems to assume some reality to one's own thoughts, yet one's own experience.
Why?
Why would you need to change anything if it's not real?
Well,
Doesn't
here,
change anyway.
What?
if we are accepting a definition of reality that is a Buddhist definition of reality, there is a conventional reality within which we are working that incorporates, that has others in the mix.
It's valid.
I think
Personal
it's,
reality is valid.
I think it's important to recognize that the conventional reality in which we are in is a functional reality, and we need to deal with that.
Hmm.
I mean, the philosophical tenets or systems that we're dealing with is one thing, but that doesn't negate the fact that we are actually moving and acting in a conventional, functional reality of which the world, we are part of the world, and that world is becoming hotter and hotter. Just because you think the world is not real, or you say that the world is not real, doesn't mean that the situation of the world in the 1.5 degrees, that the climate scientists are saying that there's a cutoff point where beyond that, systems might begin to go on their own and become like, we can't stop it anymore. So we have to deal with that fact. That's conventional, functional reality in which we are in. So I think that has to be recognized.
If you really thought it wasn't real, you wouldn't complain. Well, it's not real, so
No, but the thing
fact
is,
that you're
but the
complaining,
thing
you're
is, the
giving it validity.
conventional
It
reality
does
has to
happen,
be
yes.
recognized.
It's valid.
Because we are
Yeah,
in it.
yeah.
And so is climate change.
Right.
So we have to deal with that.
Yes, you have to understand, but people, say there's nothing to do, they don't really believe that, because then they wouldn't be complaining that it's hot, or if they thought it was really unreal. They
Well,
don't haven't come to terms with the idea.
Warning us like
Yeah.
20, 30 years ago. So where are we
I
now?
know.
We didn't believe then, and where are we now? The government didn't do anything about it. Where are we now? The world is getting hotter and hotter.
Well, the global change is not something new. It began in the first civilization, Tigris and Euphrates. That place now is dry land. It was not. It was a very fertile region. So global warming happened then, and the war was very real for them.
First,
I'm sure there were a few that were, ideas,
nothing
ideas that
changed.
were
Nothing
not
changed.
considered real anymore. They were mystics, but
When is this that you're referring to?
the first civilization that the region called Tigris and Euphrates, I think.
Euphrates.
Euphrates, I know because I know in Spanish. I know. That place was very fertile, very rich, populated, created the first civilization. Global warming happened. It was, overproduced. Something happened that went wrong. But you didn't know it was the first time experiencing civilization. So when you think that, I believe, the worldview conditions a lot. How you see the world conditions what you do. If you think the world is real only, then that conditions a lot. there are in the community some people that think otherwise, that neutralizes it to some extent. To some extent, it does not.
Businessman.
It does not cancel it. It doesn't cancel it. So that's why we need, both actually. Imagine if we, in the world, we only have, the mystics or the Buddhists. No, I don't know.
Yeah,
We need both.
Well, we have both.
We have both. That's the fact. We have both.
And here, as we're discussing this, I mean, we recognize that working on ourselves is important, and working, and maybe even within a Buddhist context, working at recognizing the empty nature of the world we live in is part of our inner practice. I mean, we just read the Heart Sutra, where we are pointing out the lack of inherent existence of all the different aspects of reality. However, we also, so that's an important practice, but we also, within, as Maya was saying, within that empty lack of inherent existence, there is this conventional world that we are inhabiting that we have to all contribute to in whatever way we can. We have to do both. I mean, as spiritual practitioners who are working towards finding the best way to serve, assume responsibility, we have to do both.
Because you're talking about both ultimate reality on one point and then the conventional reality on another point. We have to deal with both because both exist at the same time, as far as you use for lack of
And we have to do both really means at doing both is a question of involving ourselves in serving that conventional reality to the extent that we can, while also developing a greater and greater recognition of its emptiness of inherent existence. That's, I think, what doing both actually means.
And it's an emptiness that doesn't negate functionality.
It better be.
It's the reason why things function.
Right.
That's it. Like this.
So, this conversation, I think, has a certain importance and validity because, and I think this is sort of what you were addressing at the beginning. There can be this tendency towards becoming preoccupied with our own selves and with our own, let's say, spiritual preoccupations or development, while ultimately what we are working towards is making or what His Holiness is introducing here is how to contribute to the world, how to contribute to others, how to contribute to a better and happier world. And that involves devoting ourselves to working at the muscle or at the tendency or at the inner habit of caring for others rather than simply for ourselves. And so deep down, I think that the cultivation of, the development of that feeling of responsibility towards others, which includes responsibility towards the environment that we all inhabit, is the essential ingredient. And if spiritual practice is seen as merely some kind of a navel contemplation, that's not very, that doesn't really address the problems that His Holiness hears on the radio. I throw that out for, yes.
So in conclusion, convention and reality, it's never going to change. Changelessness is there. I mean, change
No,
is
no,
there.
no.
Wait.
Conventional reality can change.
Can change, yes. Good news and bad news happen in conventional reality.
Yeah.
BBC is always going to project those news. Bad news. Good news we don't need to know. We assume them to be. Because out of the good news, by nature, I can tell that the war is wrong. It needs to be fixed. The problem is there a fix? Is there a solution?
So I think that
no solution for the good.
what you were addressing is the fact that the fix has to begin with our fixing our own selfish tendency. That's the beginning of the fix. And out of that fix, we develop a feeling of responsibility towards our society. But the first step is dealing with our selfish. I mean, I wait for the hot water when I wash my face. And I'm harming the planet in the process.
Yeah, I understand. And I believe that. But it goes to be pessimistic.
Sorry?
The war is not, it's pessimist. Pessimist.
So,
The war cannot be fixed. I can fix myself.
so this, yes,
It's a pessimistic answer.
I'm not sure. One of the things that His Holiness has recently been saying about global warming is that there are scientists who have informed him that the global warming is moving at such a pace that within 70 years the world will have gotten so hot that life will be difficult. 70 years. And he said this like 3-4 years ago. And then he goes on to say, given that we have such a short time here, why do we fight with each other? Let's be nice to each other. Let's enjoy the end of existence.
But also I think maybe we could express that as there is a futility to samsara. There is a futility to an existence that's based in ignorance. That if you're always acting from within that, yes, that is, there's no way out from that. But the Buddha's teaching offers a way out.
You're getting religious here, Mark.
Make that unit square.
Yes, all right. So to view it from the point of view of, the cyclic existence, which the Korean translator I worked with in Korea always referred to as sickly existence. Cyclic existence, samsara, is a state of suffering. That's the way it is. And as we, wish, when I would listen to the radio every day, I would keep hoping that the situations were going to improve. And I would sort of feel we were working towards an ultimate good. Of course, that's not the way it is. It always gets bad again. And, we follow politics and we think that we're sort of going to get to the point where it gets good. And of course, it's not going to. It's going to keep on being terrible. So, within that situation, the only variable we have to work with is ourselves. The only thing we can improve, for the sake of improving the situation for all, is this little element that we have control over. We still have to go out there and help others to the degree that we can. We still should work towards preventing ourselves from harming the environment, but I don't know that we have much control over more than this. That's what you were saying, right? How does that fit with what you were saying?
Maybe I need time to think about it, but it's, yeah, it's a compelling point.
Sorry?
It's a compelling point.
Everyone work on themselves, it'll be a good situation. So you tell people that you can work on yourselves, and
But you can't say everyone should work
No,
on
yeah, you
themselves.
can't say
All
that,
we
but
can
you
do
can just-
is work on ourselves.
and you could be an example. And
Yeah.
people will naturally.
We're not saying that here.
What?
We're not saying that here,
Everyone should work on themselves.
if you like.
You know, sometimes,
The demeanor changes and people get attracted to that. Like when my trainer comes, oh, what did you do to make yourself so spectacular? I practice this and that. So we have to do that on some kind of scale. Learn how to tell jokes.
Yes.
Get people at ease.
There's
Otherwise, they're all
levels
like this.
to working on yourself in the sense that there's a very like domestic, like very self-level, like for example, choosing to use cold water at the shower, but that maybe
Hot showers, that's not a, we're not going that far.
yeah. But yeah, so that maybe has a very like minor impact in the grand scheme of things, but you're working yourself. But I think there's also some people, maybe not everyone can access that, but some people who maybe through working on themselves can actually create like a larger change. So for example, let's say you are a scientist like working in that field, you work on yourself by becoming more tuned to the issues people are facing in certain parts of the world related to climate change. You inform yourself. You work on yourself, and maybe you make discoveries that actually have a very large impact relative to maybe the average person. So that kind of blends in both the, at least for some individuals, the aspect that all you can truly work on is yourself, but also the possibility for some sort of impact beyond, just the most like minute personal daily level.
Woman who developed the COVID vaccine, working late at night. A lot of us wouldn't be here now
Working on
without that.
herself.
Yeah.
She worked on us, but also
Yeah.
she, got herself together and thought,
Exactly, yeah.
that's a big change.
Yeah, it's-
We're here because of it.
Just to add on to that, sometimes I think even the larger level of working on yourself, as you said, like being a scientist, devoting yourself to one field, for instance, can actually come at the cost maybe of the other type of working on yourself, where you are trying to like enjoy maybe hot water, or like you're trying to maybe be a little bit more conscious of your physical needs. Like that might be actually opposed to the other kind of working on yourself.
Absolutely. I think scientists should use hot water.
But make
But
efficient ways
no.
to make hot water.
And I think it's really important that we care for ourselves. That that we. But if we even the use of, let's say, hot water, if it is done with the sense that this will help in my attempt to be of benefit to others, we should eat healthily. We should, do those things in order to best serve. I agree.
Heat your water with the solar panels instead of electricity.
You need
Yeah.
hot water to make espresso.
Yes.
In New Jersey, there's some kind of a government policy for
Sunrun.
hot water panels on the roof. Do you know about that, Darren? We will work on
They'll give
it.
No, to put solar panel on the roof.
Future.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tax rebate
Yeah.
or for free. There's ways of doing it. The company, they knock on my door all the time.
Well, send them to us.
I can. Costco has a representative sitting here.
Costco sounds really like heaven.
It's perfect. It's a perfect one. No, you wanna put them on our roof? It's kind of
Why
slow.
not? Doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
you could, if you wanna
Yeah.
do that. I'll
Yeah,
send the
that
guy
will
over.
cut down your electricity bill, definitely.
PS&G will do it free, but you're giving them back the electricity, but you don't have a battery or anything to store when there's a power outage. That route is no good. You want to have the power there.
When there's
and
a power
battery in
out-
the basement. What?
Yeah.
Good. When
Storage.
there's a power outage, you don't get power anyway.
No, but it's a power outage, you will have power.
Yeah.
You have a battery,
Storage, yeah, battery storage.
other than the Musk batteries, you don't want. I'm toying with the idea, it's not before.
So I'm going to just,
It's time.
yes, global responsibility, because I think that His Holiness responds to exactly what we have been discussing. Occasionally I notice that people are making a convenient distinction between ethics on the personal level and ethics on the wider social level. To me, such attitudes are fundamentally flawed, as they overlook the interdependence of our world. That individual ethics, or rather their absence, can have an impact on the lives of many is powerfully demonstrated by the global financial crisis that began in 2008, the repercussions of which are still being felt around the world. It revealed the way unbridled greed on the part of a few can adversely affect the lives of millions. So just as in the wake of the 9/11 attacks, we started to take the dangers of religious extremism and intolerance and seriously, so too in the wake of the financial crisis should we take the dangers of greed and dishonesty seriously. When greed is seen as acceptable, even praiseworthy, there is clearly something wrong with our collective value system. Okay, we'll leave it at that. What's today? So tomorrow night we meet in South Orange, New Jersey, 502 North Ridgewood Road at 7 o'clock, and we're also here online.
Names?
No names.
So, we read the Sutra of the Recollection of the Noble Three Jewels. We are remembering the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, and the qualities of the Three Jewels. I prostrate to the Omniscient One, the Buddha, the Bhagavat, Tathagata, Arhat, Samyak-san Buddha, the learned and virtuous one, the Sugata, the knower of the world, the charioteer and tamer of beings, the unsurpassable one, the teacher of devas and humans is the Buddha Bhagavat. The Tathagata is in accord with all merit. He does not waste the roots of virtue. He is completely ornamented with all patience. He is the basis of the treasures of merit. He is adorned with the minor marks. He blossoms with the flowers of the major marks. His activity is timely and appropriate. Seeing him, he is without disharmony. He brings true joy to those who long with faith. His knowledge cannot be overpowered. His strength cannot be challenged. He is the teacher of all sentient beings. He is the father of bodhisattvas. He is the king of noble ones. He is the guide of those who journey to the city of nirvana. He possesses immeasurable wisdom. He possesses inconceivable confidence. His speech is completely pure. His melody is pleasing. One never has enough of seeing him. His form is incomparable. He is not strained by the realm of desire. He is not stained by the realm of form. He is not affected by the formless realm. He is completely liberated from suffering. He is completely and utterly liberated from the skandhas. He is not oppressed with dhatus. His ayatanas are controlled. Cut the knots. He is completely liberated from extreme torment. He is liberated from craving. He has crossed the river, over the river. He is perfected in all the wisdoms. He abides in the wisdom of the Buddha Bhagavats who arrives in the past, present, and future. He does not abide in nirvana. He abides in the ultimate perfection. He dwells on the bhumi where he sees all sentient beings. All these are the perfect virtues of the greatness of the Buddha Bhagavat. The holy Dharma is good at the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. Its meaning is excellent. Its words are excellent. It is uncorrupted. It is completely perfect and completely pure. It completely purifies. The Bhagavat teaches the Dharma well. It brings complete vision. It is free from sickness. It is always timely. It directs one further. Seeing it fulfills one's purpose. It brings discriminating insight for the wise. The Dharma which is taught by the Bhagavad is revealed properly in the Vinaya. It is renunciation. It causes one to arrive at perfect enlightenment. It is without contradiction. It is pithy. It is trustworthy and puts an end to the journey. As for the Sangha of the great jnana, they enter completely. They enter insightfully. They enter straightforwardly. They enter harmoniously. They are worthy of veneration with joint palms. They are worthy of receiving prostration. They are a field of glorious merit. They are completely capable of receiving all gifts. They are an object of generosity. They are a great object of complete generosity. The protector who possesses great kindness. The omniscient teacher, the basis of oceans of merit and virtue, I prostrate to the Tathagata. Pure, the cause of freedom from passion, virtuous, liberating from the lower realms. This alone is the supreme ultimate truth. I prostrate to the Dharma, which is peace. Having been liberated, they show the path to liberation. They are fully dedicated to the disciplines. They are a holy field of merit and possess virtue. I prostrate to the Sangha. I prostrate to the Buddha, the leader. I prostrate to the Dharma, the protector. I prostrate to the Sangha, the community. I prostrate respectfully and always to these three. The Buddha's virtues are inconceivable. The Dharma's virtues are inconceivable. The Sangha's virtues are inconceivable. Having faith in these inconceivables, therefore the fruitions are inconceivable. May they be completely pure. Now let's recite the prayer for the swift return of Trungpa Rinpoche. Exalted wisdom of all victors gathered in a drop, sole refuge manifest in the form of the one wearing saffron robes, Guru Lobsang Tubwang Dorje Chan. Please bear witness here today that our prayers may be fulfilled. We beseech the great torch of doctrine, accomplishing from long ago the vast ways of aspirational prayers, the Lord of speech of the victors, Durasang's teachings, spreading them to the ends of the earth by means of explanation and practice. Though holding the commitment, I will invite all beings to be my guests in unsurpassed great awakening, yet you have withdrawn the activities of the form body and serve the Is that worthy of the supreme among beings, the Bodhisattvas? Though impossible for you until cyclic existence end to abandon your commitment to liberate all beings, we beseech the new son of Nirmanakaya to swiftly return from the realm of Dharmakaya, brought forth by Bodhicitta drawn by 7 steeds. Having reached the far limits of scholarship, religious life, and goodness, please come swiftly as an unrivaled supreme emanation, full holder of the sage's teachings, and wish-fulfilling jewel. Return as the glory of Losang Temple. Magnificent truth to the three precious jewels, and this ocean of Dharma protectors, may you spontaneously fulfill our wishes, the swift blossoming of the red incarnation's fresh moonlight face.
Thanks, Nikki. Thank you very much. Everyone is very, very happy here.
Thank you, Michael.